Hi everybody, Mature Simmer here. Welcome to a wet spring on the farm. So, time to get crop in the ground. So that will be my focus. You have not missed a sale of fabric. Have not sold it, as you can probably tell from the situation here as far as the dollars. So, filled the greenhouses just a little bit ago, but I'm just curious to see how much is going to go. If it's more than 5,000, I certainly then will need to pile things up, and it looks like it is, so go ahead and fill this, and then maybe I can go ahead and get a situation where I can fill the two warehouses, or they'll definitely be really close, if nothing else. So, trying to save up for the field. So, really, the plan this year, nothing too fancy. Just get crop in the ground and get it over to my spinnery, and then obviously try to sell it about a year from now. So, April would have been the preference. Just didn't work out on getting back in here, and decided when I saw where the price is now, which is $2,400, $2,500, when I know it can be $2,600, it'd be not a mad rush. I need, 1.3, 1.4 million, so selling it now gets me really nothing. And it would be selling it as a little bit of a loss. And it's a couple $100 per thousand, so over 140, 150,000 liters of fabric, that does add up. So, that'd be, if I'm figuring it right, 28,000 or so. So that's not insubstantial. Again, out of 1.3 million, one can make an argument that it's immaterial, but it's still a positive amount. And all those little immaterial amounts, if you know anything about compounding and finance and whatever, I mean, again, we're not getting interest of the money sitting here, but it's always just a good life skill to learn that every little bit you get in there, especially if you have compound interest or something, it just improves your situation. So, disconnect that. We'll let that go. I don't think I'm going to need anything here, although I may need to get some supply. Alright, at this point, I'm going to go ahead and... actually, I need the other tractor, I should say. Need the bigger one to be able to pull the planter. That requires a bit of oomph. So, definitely noticing more of an issue. The website's still being worked on for FOC, and that does, or has, actually caused a bit of a challenge, in that because I can't really see what month it is, I ended up inadvertently missing the time to get in here at one point, and so I've really skipped a year, a little bit intentionally, but not entirely. So it's one of those, like, it'd be nice to be able to tell, but haven't been able to. I think I repaired the harvesters. It doesn't really matter. We'll worry about it later. But, those are the things that potentially take a good hunk of cash from us here. Alright, so let's see if I line it a little more up here. Always a bit. We got that little bit of the field that sticks out. Get ourselves down there, lower the planter. I always forget to do that because that does take a bit of time. And then there's a bit of panic that sets in. But should be good there. We got everything behind us. So we should be able to get this taken care of. So today, as always, plant and run around behind and weed. So, and I'm planning on, at a minimum, doing the typical run AI for the weeding, but I may end up also doing helper for the planting. So we'll see how it goes. Once again, just real life's making it challenging even to operate the farm a little bit as it is here. That's why there's also not a huge run for me to get 34, because that's just going to make things a bit more time consuming, because obviously we've got more acres to work. But on the one hand, it seems like that would feel a little bit better if I went ahead and did that as far as size of the farm. But I think at that point I would be in pretty good shape. Once again, if the other two fields nearby came up, I would have to give them serious consideration, and I'll deal with that when I get there. But right now on my radar, if I can get 34, I think that will be the farm that I'll be working here at FOC going forward. And then it really does become just being a good old farmer and rinse and repeat every year. Plant some cotton, weed, fertilize, harvest, put it in the spinnery, eventually get that from the spinnery to the tailor shop, sell some clothes. So there's, still a little bit of progress. I'm going to need 2.6 million or so for just that shop, and that's assuming I don't have any issues with the ground or anything, which I'm certainly going to. So I'm sure it'll be 2.6, 2.7, 2.8 million. And as I said, I need 1.3 million to get the other field, and so that's also a part of that, because if I'm trying to get 2.6 million, I'll be able to do that and get that operation moving a little bit better with just a bit more volume. So I'm going to go ahead and do the work here that I need to do, and I will then be back later on. Starting out this morning on the farm, we'll get to see if we had any weeding problems. I'm not seeing anything right away, but there were definitely points where the weeder stopped and I restarted. This little piece is kind of the ongoing problem that we seem to have. I don't understand why they don't ultimately go away. I think unless I start to plow the fields, I think there's just no way to reset. But go ahead here and we'll fill this up just so it's a little easier and quicker to go along. One of the things I did end up deciding to do, you can see we've got a tanker. Decided to go ahead and buy that. Oh, yeah, that was where one ended. So obviously I misjudged how far over it was going to go. The weeder got stuck on the trailer, and I thought I had come back and done it properly, but obviously I had not. Oh well, it is what it is. Can't do anything about it now. And luckily it's, just a small strip versus what I had, other times where suddenly it was substantially more than that. So I suppose all in all, it could have been a lot worse, right? So I'm going to go ahead and start on this field here. I did make sure for certain areas, like on the row down here toward the bottom where we did have the one mistake of one of the other farm managers kind of driving over here and plowing through the entire field. It you know, didn't quite reset. It sometimes messes things up. I'm sure it will on the harvesters and so forth, but on the weeder it worked just fine, other than, once again, there's that little bit of weeds left. But should be pretty simple. We'll go down to that end of the field, and you know, then I'll probably let you head off, because all I'm doing today is fertilizing. I'm thinking the next cycle we're probably going to be due for lime. I don't know for sure. I'm trying to figure out. I'm looking at the mini map, and like, I think it just hasn't redrawn yet, because I'm like, why does it have that weird like line and an island in the middle of it? But I'm thinking it just hasn't updated. There we go. Now it goes away. But there's that one piece, and so you can see we've got plants in there, like it planted. It just, you know, but it is not as complete a planting thing, so it almost seems like I do need to fix that. I just, I don't know. Just, I know I've plowed other areas of the field that theoretically had a problem, and then it didn't fix them anyway, so I sometimes feel like it's a pointless attempt, and, you know, it's probably just a tiny bit of a problem each time, so I don't know that it's worth it. Yeah, I did get stuck also. You know, I've got the weight on the front of the other tractor. I somehow had turned away for a second and ended up in my hay storage, and the darn weight was like stuck, so I had to like flip it out with my telehandler, and it was just another farming simulator pain. But I'm just glad I had the telehandler as part of my equipment. So but the cash balance has gone down, mainly because of the tanker. And I did obviously then fill the tanker with liquid fertilizer, and that's 100,000 gallons, so that obviously took a hunk as well. But I could not empty the water tanker. It wouldn't let me put the water out in IBCs or whatever and pick it up later, so, and I just filled the greenhouses, because that's kind of my process: fill it and then let it fill the tanker, so that when I come back next time I've got a full tanker to start with. But it came back to bite me, and so I made the decision, well, we'll just get a tanker, and then we'll have one for liquid fert and one for the water, and then not have to worry about it, because it was a bit of a pain kind of going back and forth. And the other piece was obviously going up there with a 15,000 liter tanker, where we go through a good amount of fertilizer. It was also requiring me, you know, to go 4 or 5 times to the store to pick that up, and that takes a bit of time as well. So did decide to go ahead and do it, and at least be, I don't know, I was going to say realistic, but that's not really the case. I mean, a farmer could choose to stay with smaller equipment and just do the little bit of extra work. But just decided, for a quality of life thing, I guess, to go ahead and spend the 115,000 or whatever it was to go ahead and get that trailer. So it will haul any kind of a liquid item, so I did kind of to go with that. Plus, I can fill the implement directly from it, which is nice. So it potentially gives me options if somehow I decide to go to liquid herbicide at some point or something, and stop doing the weeder. I could do that, but I don't know that there's a whole lot of benefit. If we were on precision farming, I think I'd absolutely do it, because I'd be buying a see and spray machine and being able to save a lot. But we don't have that option in FOC, as I've talked about before. So I'm going to keep doing this, and then we will be back probably for harvest. So I'll see you in a bit. Hi, everybody. It's time to be back. We've got some cotton to harvest. So this is exciting. So again, not really any time that I was planning on working, but we're gonna set my boys to work here. So that's the plan. So I'm gonna get these out here and let them run for an hour, hour and a half maybe, and we'll see how far everything gets. But hopefully things will be pretty good. So definitely missing Farmers Only Club having the page where I can quickly check what it is, because you kind of have to log in and figure it out. I mean, yeah, I could put together a spreadsheet again like I had in FSN, but I haven't. So, and I'm coming up here because otherwise it tends to sometimes screw up down below. So I'm hoping this will go as long as possible. I'm actually trying to upload my TGC Tours video, so I was down getting that set and getting that going, and then decided I would go ahead and check this out, and lo and behold, I've got stuff ready to harvest. But this is exactly why I wanted 2 of these, because then I can get this done. Then hopefully I'll, get stuff in to harvest or to the spinnery, and we'll all be good. All right, so this should go. And now we'll come over to this one. And we'll get him going over on 36. This one's closer, easier. So I did check the rain. Rain isn't coming till like 4 a.m. So, because that was my one concern. I'm like, am I gonna kick this off and then 30 minutes from now it's gonna start raining? That would have been bad. All right, there we go. So they can go do their thing. He's running off. Let's just make sure everything is good here. So, in theory, easy enough. But a little bit of a challenge. 5,800 liters of cotton in this one. The other one had 11,000, so I've got almost a full bale just between the two. But hoping this will run, things will go well, and that we'll have a good crop this year. But that is the work that's happening, and I will see you in a bit. Here in the morning on the next day, just checked in, and yes, everybody is obviously finished, but for whatever reason with the automation, these last 2 rows on 36 not picked up. So just getting that done. Started at about 200 at the start of this row, so you can see we're going to get about 500 liters. And thing is, I think that turns into just 250 liters of fabric. So, it's not a huge amount then, because basically at the $2,600, $600 or so worth of fabric is what that will become. But $600, it's not nothing. And as we'll see when I get there for repair, I repaired the one up on 35 already, and it was over 10,000. So I'm guessing this one will be the same, because it might even be more because it ran longer. I am going to go ahead, though, and pick up the bales right away. I'm in here. And at that point, once again, kind of creating an excuse to leave and then come back for it later. I'm going to end up, you know, picking these up in April or May and be ready to plant and then not be able to convert them. So now I haven't checked to make sure that everything went across, but there's no reason to think it hasn't, and probably driving around I'll see it. So we will go and check that all out as this works. Whoops. So I'm going to turn this off here. Whoops. We'll start filling. Is it filling? I think it is. No, it is not. It's a optical illusion. So let me position myself differently here. Okay, now it's filling. We'll see if what's left is there, if I have to get more. Interesting. Repair. I wonder if it's so old? Or, well, maybe so new. Wow. That's crazy. So it's like 3 times as expensive to repair the other one. I know it costs more. Oh, but this one still has... This one has 56 hours. This one has 14 hours. Why did this one take that long to repair? That is weird. I don't know, it's possible I didn't repair it last time, but usually I would assume I would. Alright. So, go ahead and go grab my trailer. Also, gonna go ahead at this point, and I'm gonna move this because I'm not gonna have another year where I'm running into the trailer. So and I need to, you know, dump this into the silo, so that way we'll have a nice empty trailer and we'll be good to go. So let's get ourselves positioned. There we go. Of course, it's going to take a bit because, you know, it's empty. It's got to start dumping. I suppose I should turn on my lights. So there is a bale up there, but most of them are actually down. Oh, there is one right at the corner there, which makes sense because obviously it kind of emptied and then had like 200 or something. So not sure when it had emptied because obviously it had been facing the other direction when I got there. So it's interesting, but alright, put this over near the silo. I have been, I don't know, debating? Probably not the right word because I don't know that I'm going to do anything. But I definitely have things, now that I've really switched to cotton, like there's things on the farm, there's smaller pieces of equipment, there's other things that I'm not utilizing, you know, like the baler, for example. That's right. I'm like, where do I have the bale pickup wagon, whatever you want to call it? And it's over here. Alright, the one other thing I need to check. Alright, yeah, that's right. I had filled the greenhouses at some point relatively quickly. So I'm going to go up to 35 first and get those, and then... Oh. So we have some here that I need to come grab. So hopefully I won't forget. But yeah, so there is that issue, but it's just that little corner. But I'll come down and grab that up at some point. I don't think there's enough that I can spit out another bale, but I don't want to leave crop on the ground if I can avoid it, obviously. Alright. Oh, and we've got some here. Goodness. So yeah, continued problems that we have with the harvest, and I don't think those could go away unless, and they might not even go away then, and if I had a plow it'd be one thing, but given that I don't, you know, it's a bit more of a challenge. I'm either renting one or I'm trying to, you know, I'm borrowing one, which to some degree, you know, I need to rent it from someone else because of the wear and tear it would take to go through this much. You know, I'd have to be able to repair and then, you know, send them money for the repair or something, so. But I think at that point, if I'm using it that much, you know, it was one thing, I think they were willing to say, yeah, go ahead and use it, when it was like, yeah, I'm going to use it for 5-10 minutes. But if I'm plowing the entire fields, that's very different. Now, on the flip side, this is one of those kind of annoying things that do weigh on you a little bit, because it's like, all right, now I've got to take time and go do something that I thought I was done, and I just had to pick up bales, and it just kind of changes the dynamic. Because again, what normally I would be doing here is, you know, per the process I've been doing for a bit, is I just kind of come down and drop these near the location and then pick them up with, so I'm gonna go maybe here, because otherwise I'm basically going in front of the building and coming back, doing a lot of wiggling. As long as it's kind of straight on, that'll make it simpler. But normally then what I'm doing is, you know, just doing that and coming and picking up. But let me go work on this. So you know what I'm doing. I'm getting everything operating again. So I'm going to turn on cotton. So 41,000 in there. So probably at some point I'm going to have to move those bales for it to keep going, because it'll probably fill up. So now I can see. Again, I don't have GPS on either of these because my thought was, you know, I very rarely will drive them. So that's, you know, that's like the other piece that's interesting with this, because, like, you know, I can't be as efficient. And yes, one could argue, well, then just turn on the helper, which I suppose I could do, but seems stupid if I'm in here at this point. You know, and it's semi-easy enough, like I could go, I don't know, because yeah, I'm trying to line this up. I think I'm decent there. you know, with the repair station, like, I can customize vehicles, so I can always add GPS, but again, that's between the two, that's another 30,000. And right now I'm running kind of bone dry on funds. You know, but that would allow me to do things a little bit easier. And I suppose the argument is I don't need it on both. I need it on one, so I really just need 15. So maybe the smart thing is to go ahead and do that, because otherwise I'm playing this game, but there's even less down below. Oh, I did get that. I was worried on the left that I was going to leave something, but it seems to be doing okay here. This is a long field. So it does feel like it's a bit anxious and traumatic to go down here and drive it, because, you know, I don't want to miss one and then go back. And yes, one stock is at most a liter or something. It's not like I'm getting so many. Alright, so we've got that done. Hopefully we don't find any more. Obviously it started up there, but, you know, now I'm going to have to drive all the way down and go from that point. But you know what I'm going to be doing, so rather than continue droning on, because I really don't have anything to add other than, hey, I really want the website back so that I can see what month it is, because that is super convenient in the morning to just peek. Keeps my head in the game a little bit more as well. Where otherwise I'm like, it's been 3-4 days, I think it's time to harvest. It's kind of where I was at yesterday, and happened to be right. But you kind of don't know how sometimes little things impact you a lot more than you think. Like not having GPS on a vehicle that you wouldn't be regularly using manually anyway. So, but I'm going to go ahead and do that, and I will see you in a bit. Alright, well, good news is I'm semi-keeping on time. I felt that it might be time for lime, which it is. I now need to go and get that lime and start working on the field, but and then we'll start getting that done. But I don't have to plant for another 3 months or sell for another couple. So I also want to make sure the spinnery hasn't filled up. Alright, well, we're going to have a lot of boxes of fertilizer. So there we go. We'll pick that up later. And in the meantime, we'll go get ourselves some lime, which I believe is down here. I don't get it that often. Yeah, there we go. Alright. 99,000. I should be okay, but probably just barely. It uses a lot. I know that. But they only hold like 110,000, so I'm gonna make sure that I'm careful in filling it up, because I don't want too much extra, but I want to be right around that 100,000 mark. And so set my line here as you saw me driving over for this field. So now let me change this though, because it's wider than the fertilizer, which is good, because then it won't take as long. I think I have enough time this morning before I need to go do some stuff that I can do this, but just finding it's becoming more and more challenging to keep up with things all across the board that I'm trying to do. So, but I needed to get to the lime, and what I didn't want was to then have a big day where I suddenly had liming and planting and weeding all together. That really gets overwhelming for how I have time available, but at least I got this, and let's, like I said, take a look at the spinnery. Alright, we're somewhat decent on that. Alright, well, it's still running. There we go, 57,000, but I do need to get things over. So I'm going to have to remember to do that. I'd really prefer not to put a helper on this because I have time and I just keep chewing money away. I mean, it's almost gotten to the point sometimes that I'm just doing nothing but helpers on the farm, which is what a lot of the guys on the server do, I've noticed. So, you know, at some point that makes sense, but I don't know that it does when I'm still like trying to buy things here and there. But with that, I'm going to go ahead and get those things done. So, may top off the water too. We'll see what I feel like, but usually that, when I've got something going on or it's a day I don't need to do anything, the water's a little bit easier at that point. So, I'm going to go ahead and do that, and I will see you in a bit. Alright, I'm back here in April. Bubba Gump's actually doing pretty well. So I'm going to get over here, and I'm going to go ahead and grab the last couple pallets, and I'm pretty sure this should be it. I think these are all the pieces that have gone down. I'm kind of hit or miss with getting both of these. Let's see, I think I'm too high. Yep. There we go. Perfect. So, got a bit of a mess on the trailer over here. It didn't really stack nicely. That's part of what I've noticed with this semi-auto load thing. And I don't know, maybe it's when I've gone in and gone out, but no, it's a little... Like you can see it went like 4 high on one of those, which it normally doesn't do, but you know, you can see it doesn't like tuck it in nicely. So, alright. So I think that'll be it. I'm going to double check the spinnery and make sure. So yeah, it's done. So I'm going to deactivate it because again, I did fill the water up since we talked. So that is going along well. So you can see, you know, we've got steady, you know, the $1,000 that we get typically. But let me grab my truck. I think I need to disconnect. So I was going to try to use the large tanker to do the water because I needed a good amount. I was like needed almost 15,000 for each one, but I could not unload enough of the liquid fertilizer out of it. So it's sitting there with a good amount of liquid fertilizer. So I did put everything I could in that little bit, but it's okay. So the nice thing is, you know, Bubba Gump, I think, is the one up the road where obviously Hobo or whatever, I forget what the other one is, that's right here by me. Yeah, Hobo's Market, which are really kind of the two, but you know, 25, 21 is kind of high, so anytime I'm over that, you know, I could sit here and monitor it and hope for a few bucks, and then just as likely see it drop by $200 by the time I am able or remember to get in. And frankly, it's remember. So, you know, the reality of this, you know, being as transparent as I can about how I feel about things. Anyway, let me strap these down. 280,000. As I think comes as no surprise to anyone. I mean, Farming Simulator's pretty repetitive. It's kind of the nature of the game. I mean, it's kind of what I guess is part of the draw. It's just, hey, that's farming. And the challenge has become, on my single player series, like, it takes a ton of work to basically come up with an episode of content. So I've been trying for the better part of a month now, and I'm probably only halfway there. I mean, I've just done some planting, but it takes 5 or 6 hours, 8 hours to plant the fields, and even if I'm using something like horseplay, like, it just takes time. And so it's just difficult when I'm doing other things to go ahead and fit that in. And so the reality and the transparency that's coming in is, there's definitely, between the golf and the flight sim, if you haven't figured it out, it's just easier to go in and do more of that than it is to do a lot of the other stuff, because it's there's just something not necessarily unique, but you're still doing something a little bit different. Alright, so there we go. So where I'm being honest is just, I'm definitely less drawn to hop in and do anything. I'm obviously keeping the things going that I've got going, because I still enjoy coming in once in a while and doing stuff. But this is similar. I'm at the point now I need, $2.5 million to get the tailor shop. So it's going to take just some work, and I was talking with the folks on the server the other day, as I had just popped in. I hadn't talked with them in a couple months. We've got the Discord server we kind of hang out at here and there, and so saw them on. And I've noticed, over the probably 4-6 months, seems very similar with them. They seem very interested in Star Citizen, and they seem to spend a lot of time. So it's basically a server that, like, hey, you can just hang out when you're actually on, and that way if people want to speak to each other, like, there's somebody to talk to or whatever. So it's just kind of a hangout, and people aren't necessarily playing together. They're just kind of in a virtual room together, and if you want to then mention something. So I was just kind of asking them what they had seen, and asked a few questions that I had about flight simming and so forth, because most of them do that. I'm trying to figure out, it was a little bit of a long way to wait. Maybe I'll just put it on the other side of this, just so I don't have to go quite as far to dump it off. But they are doing something, very similar to what I tend to do, which is you get in, but because there's so much time, they take advantage of the helpers, just as I have started doing, especially on the harvest. But, I made the comment that, I'm doing it even more. Sometimes I'm doing it for planting, and they're like, oh yeah, I'll go in and, there's very little that they'll do manually on the farm. I mean, obviously, going and doing what I just did, you have to do that manually. There's no way to automate that. But it didn't take very long. And so it's a very passive experience for most people of what they're doing. So just being upfront there, I mean, there will be content for Farming Simulator, but that's why you're seeing, I don't know that, I mean, it is less of it, because obviously when I switch to just providing yearly content here, that means that you'll only see things every 2 weeks or so from Farmers Only Club. Now, the other thing that I do want to update people on, because I guess shame on me, the thing I was asking them about was, wow, are they going to have this farmers only thing done? Because I can't tell what month it is on the server, and that's partially why it's been so long since you've seen anything from Farmers Only Club. It wasn't intentional that I was like, oh, I'm not going to go ahead and do it. But yes, maybe I was a little less diligent in checking in, because you had to log in if you couldn't see it on the server, and I missed planting basically by a month last year, so there was a year that I didn't do anything on the server here, which is why we ended up with 280,000 liters of material there. So because by the time I came back in, I had not only missed planting, I had missed selling, and I'm like, well, I'm not going to sell stuff at a loss just to sell it, so I'll just wait. You know, it's not like the fabric goes bad. And I know a lot of the people will just, like, wait until they have an entire trailer, because that's where most of the folks are. I mean, I'm the newer one on the server, even though it's been almost a year that I've been in here. But they've got so much money, they there's nothing they need to do. So, you know, and even at the point, like they were talking about, like they've got so much production happening, like they can't consume the material their farm produces. They're waiting for production buildings to do things, and so therefore I'm sure there are years they just don't plant anything because they've got so much, you know, like Lamerick, for example, would have so much cotton off those fields that I'm sure he can keep a couple spinneries busy for a couple years with one harvest. So unless you've got some active market where you're selling to people or whatever it is, it's just a bit challenging. But anyway, the piece was the website worked. The way I was set, I was at a page that, yes, looked like it wasn't working, but that wasn't the page I needed to go to. So I just needed to go to farmersonly.net or farmersonly.club, whatever it is, at the top level. But I think I had /home, and that's what I had been going to forever. But I guess that was not going to the right place any longer, and so that's why it looked like nothing had happened. But they're like, no, this has been working for a while. They didn't know when it started working again, but you know, I thought it had been down for like a month or two, and that I just was getting a little sick of having to check. But now it was easy to tell, hey, it's April, because I was in here in February and I could go ahead and do that. You know, the other thing I'm starting to see in Farming Simulator, and so a little bit of what I'm frankly getting worried about, is I do feel we're going to be back in that same cycle of the 3-year, here's a new whatever, a new game, and I feel exactly as I always have. The game's doing what it needs to do. I don't know that they could do anything significantly different. So, you know, we'll see what happens. I mean, to some degree, I could say I feel a little bit the same way with Flight Simulator. Like, there is a new Flight Simulator coming out. They've announced the date of November 19th of 2024. So, I know that will be coming. But on the flip side, you know, that Microsoft has said, like, they have hit the limit. They're also introducing a bunch of different styles that I'm sure will make it more popular, because you could almost basically within the game kind of do jobs and do search and rescue and firefighting and things like that, where kind of the hardcore simmers I've seen are complaining more that, well, they're making it arcadey, and you know, I just want to fly routes, I want to do realistic flight. And so there has been some concern of, is that somehow going to dilute things? I'm not sure that it will, but I'm kind of with them to some degree. I don't know how much I'll delve into those things that in essence are causing a new version to come out, but obviously, again, like any company, if they're not making enough on add-on planes or however they're bringing in cash from that franchise, a new game is kind of necessary. But I just don't know that we have it in Farming Simulator. But I've started to see less content on ModHub. So if you follow my ModHub pieces, I talked about a while ago, probably a year ago, that because it had dwindled here and there, that I'll post something on a Friday when I see something, but that if there isn't a mod's worth noting, then it's just because there's nothing out there. I mean, sometimes I'll have been busy and not been able to do it, but then I'd catch up. But the last month, for example, I went a month between mods worth noting because there were maybe 5 or 10 mods that showed up. It was like a page or two. And it tends to be, people are doing a little bit of equipment here, there, whatever. But maps seem to have kind of stopped. And so I'm just thinking we're in that point again where folks are, well, it's that time, so why bother? I'm just waiting to hear if in July they say whatever. So, you've got FarmCon coming up in July, and so I'm expecting that there's going to be an announcement there. I'm not real enthused about it, as you can tell. So, I think I may be in the minority. I mean, the issue ends up being for those folks that are maybe making a living off their YouTube channel, someone like Farm Sim Guy or something. I don't know if now he doesn't have a job and this is what he does. Like, I definitely fall in the scope of fake enthusiasm for games or whatever, where YouTube channels have to, in essence, become product cheerleaders, because that's how they survive. So, there was actually something, speaking of the Star Citizen in the group, I had come across something in the old FSN channel that someone said, hey, there's this thing, and I quickly scanned it, and I thought it was a competition that people could join and play, and I didn't read through it all, and I posted it out on our group Discord server, and then I asked people when I was on, hey, did you look at it? And they're like, yeah, but I'm not, like, if someone's just trying to market their channel, I don't care about that. Like, I'm not just going to go and watch something because they want active live stream or whatever. And so I think there's a lot of that in the community too, where people are, just give me some authentic feedback, give me some content, but stop pretending that the game is wondrous when it's not, or whatever. And I think most recently I've seen a lot of that with City Skylines 2, where, like, now that there's these updates, the channels that cover it a lot are putting out videos kind of trying to drum up interest again, but I'm just not sure how much interest it's really drummed up. I think it's one of those that I think Paradox screwed the pooch with what they did, and I just don't know that people are going to come back. I mean, I know I certainly have kind of lost interest in even giving a crap about what's happening over there, because they so turned me off with how broken the main game was to begin with, and how they released it too early, and it just hasn't lived up to the hype that they've put out there. But if you watch the content from those people, like City Planner Plays and stuff, sometimes you'll think, and Biffa and those guys, you'll think like, wow, this must be great. But that's how they generate interest, is, you get people excited about something that there maybe isn't anything excited about. So you're not going to get that from me, because that's just not my style. I'm not trying to fake people out or whatever. So that's kind of the reality of why I'm sharing where I'm at with Farming Simulator, because it has dropped in where I spend my time. And the reasoning is because I find, like, I can always come up with something to do in-flight sim. Well, I can go fly for this VA, I can do whatever. I've actually screwed up, and I took too long on one of the VAs, so I got kicked out, I think, but we'll see if that one comes back. And so, you know, even though it's still just flying, I mean, every flight is unique because the weather's different, the traffic's different. You know, we've got new features coming out, you know, or new add-ons coming out like Beyond ATC and stuff like that. And there just isn't that in this community. So we've just got these servers where we can just farm and just kind of do our thing. But by its very nature, it becomes a bit more passive. So just being upfront about that. It's not that I've lost interest. It's just my interest does get pulled in when I've got limited amounts of time. I do find myself, because really I'm trying really hard on the PGA Tour to get competitive for TGC tours, and so I am sinking a ton of time on the golf side of things, and that just obviously then removes hours that I would have spent maybe doing something in Farming Simulator. So that is the reality. So you know, if you're on the channel for Farming Simulator content, I just want to be upfront with that. Like, it'll be here, but it's not going to go back to where I have a farming video every other day. Maybe ever, maybe anytime soon. I mean, there's certainly plenty of videos out there if people want to watch farm sim content, but I think you know, the channel's old enough at this point that you're here because you like how I talk about things, you like how I present things, and so forth. And so, again, that's why I'm being as open and transparent as I am here, and dragging this on a little bit. But with that, I think I've droned on more than enough. So if you are still here, I appreciate you for taking the time to listen through things. If you have not dropped a like and have not subscribed to the channel, please consider that. Those things all are helpful and greatly appreciated. I love talking with folks, love interaction and so forth about whatever it is I'm doing. And this will wrap the year because we've now sold, but I need 1.3 million for the field. I need 2.6 million for the tailor shop. Like, I got a ways to go. So I've just got work, and I've got years of farming ahead of me to even get there, because yes, I went from 120,000 to 863,000. So basically I did, you know, $750,000, I think. But you know, there's going to be expenses that come out as I work things and so forth. So I probably have at least 2 or 3 years to go before I can even begin to afford Field 34, which is my next target. And that's where we're headed. So I will see you next time.